Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Sports Weekly Podcast, here with the Iowa State Daily Sports People. I'm Brett Schwellmeyer, sports editor, and once again I'll be your host, and I'll have my singular co-host this week introduce himself.
What's up, guys? Assistant sports editor Pavel Markovic back with you.
Pavel, we don't have Caden this week.
Unfortunately, we're back to work. I don't remember how many episodes ago was it with just me and you, because I know this is not the first time.
I don't remember, a couple, two maybe.
Caden's slacking off, so.
Yeah. Anyway, you get to hang out with us for the next however long this takes. You know how long it is. The video's already up by now. Anyway, Iowa State stays undefeated. It really feels like 38 now. Iowa State scored 38 points.
I did not even realize that until right now. That is funny.
Yeah, and Iowa State has its best record since the 1938 season, 7-0.
The stars aligned for this one, man. That when all hope seemed to be lost because of UCF, they just came back and took victory out of the jaws of defeat, man. It's just unbelievable to see.
Yeah. As Scott Hansen would say on the Red Zone channel, it was like the witching hour where losses become wins and wins become losses.
Exactly.
Something like that, yeah. Anyway, Iowa State, I mean, they struggled a lot, especially in the first half, into the second half early. Trailed by 14 in this game and just fought through it. Rocco Becht, it felt like, was the guy who turned around his own mistakes to get the win in this one. The defense stepped up when it had to yet again. It felt similar in a sense to Iowa State's games this season where it's like you give the other team a lead, you come from behind and win, but this one wasn't as dominant. It felt like it literally was won in the final 30 seconds.
Yeah, and you didn't expect that. It was literally down in the last 2 minute, like under 2 minute drive because UCF got down and scored. So yeah, it was just, or not scored, they had to punt. But yeah, regardless, we didn't expect to see Iowa State struggle against a team like UCF, who's been middling around 3-3 and now 3-4, obviously because of the loss. And the main reason they got behind was because of their strong rushing attack. Like we've preached the whole time in our last pod and in the previews and such. Like they weren't able to stop RJ Harvey nor Ja'Cory Brown, the quarterback, and it was just awful. Like I don't want to say awful, but yeah, it was just bad.
It was really bad.
It was really bad. Yeah, it was really bad just to see what that happened and just like see because. You saw what they did against West Virginia against the run. They were able to improve, and even Baylor too. Like, and then you see them go against UCF, and I know UCF is a better rushing team than those teams, but still, like, what happened in the rushing defense? Like, I mean, they are great players on the other side of the ball, but still, like, you'd expect to see some, like, I know they did in the second half, like, more find ways to stop RJ Harvey in that rushing offense, but like in the first half, you can't allow that to get behind that far.
Yeah, when you combine the two of those guys, RJ Harvey and Ja'Cory Brown, 350 yards of rushing between the two of those guys.
Oh my God.
And then you had Miles Montgomery with his lone 4-yard carry. But, I mean, at the end of the day, it was that quick strike, big playability that those two had. And, I mean, both of them scored a touchdown that was over 60 yards in length. RJ Harvey, the first play on one of the drives, goes 80 yards. Ja'Cory Brown has a fantastic play with one of his rushing touchdowns where hesitates, stays in the pocket a little bit, and just runs it up the middle, and he's gone.
Yeah, it's not even unbelievable. Like, even RJ Harvey on the first drive, like, he had that 46-yard gain that got them to scoring range, which Ja'Cory Brown finished off with a 6-yard run. So, yeah, it was, to even say the least, it was just not pleasant to see. And luckily, though, Iowa State's running game was able to bounce back in that first quarter. Carson Hansen with his 2 rushing touchdowns in that quarter. Unfortunately, we weren't able to see him in the second half because it looked like he might have been dealing with an injury, but he still got the job done nonetheless in that first quarter.
Yeah, and after the game, it just felt like Campbell said that they were trying to be cautious with him or to an effect of something like that, but we did end up getting to see a lot more from Abu Sama in this game, who had 10 carries, 55 yards. He didn't have a touchdown, but again, it was another kind of big playability that got him a lot of his yards. He had a 23-yard rush in the game, but when you look at everyone in this game, the rush offense for Iowa State was kind of held in check, and we know how good on both sides of the ball UCF is at rushing, the way they're able to run it on offense, the way they're able to stop it on defense, and I mean, like you're saying, they were stout on both sides of the ball in this one. But it was Rocco Becht, actually, who led the way in Iowa State, rushing the football, 20 carries, 97 yards, and he had those 2 QB sneaks. One of them was the game winner.
I couldn't believe it. And, and even the 2-point conversion, too. Like, when he had that QB rush to score, I didn't expect any of that to happen. Like, this, like, even going back to that last one, like, the tense moments, they had no timeouts, I think. They were running under 30 seconds. Like, was it like third and goal or fourth and goal when he scored?
It was third.
Yeah, third and goal.
Yep.
If he didn't get it there from a pass, like it was gonna be very like eek. Like I know they could have. Well, I guess I couldn't have kicked a field goal to tie it, but still, it would have been very like sad if they couldn't be able to finish that off. Just looking at what UCF did, I know they scored in every quarter, but still, like you couldn't fall to a team like that, especially at home. But luckily, that wasn't the case, and Rocco Becht, despite not having the greatest day passing, made up for it on the rushing end.
Yeah, only 55.3 QBR for him. I believe that's his worst of the season.
Probably.
And a lot of that was the basically 2 pick sixes. He had the one that was just, I guess he threw it too soft in the flat or something. Defender breaks in the ball, brings it back. And then the second one that happens, defender brings it to the 1 yard line. Let's go with the ball before the goal line, which is something that amazingly still happens in college football. Like you think that after seeing like at least one every year, it's like you'd think that the coaches, the players would understand, like run through the end zone. Like
and then you can let go of the ball. Yeah.
It's just so crazy to me how much they fight to get the ball, to force turnovers like that. And the second they sniff the goal line, they just drop it and like run away like they're scared of it.
Yeah, I remember seeing that a couple times in the NFL growing up. It's just like ridiculous. Like to hold on to the ball until you pass the goal line, then you can do whatever you want. You can throw it in the stands. You can let it go, do whatever the hell you want. It's just like don't let it go at the one. Unfortunately for Iowa State, that still resulted in a UCF score because
from RJ Harvey too.
Yeah, from RJ Harvey, the second one, because it landed at the one. Nobody touched it because I'm assuming I would assume too if I was on the field that was a touchdown just because you're on field level. You don't see him let it go at the one. So that makes sense how it happened. Unfortunately, it didn't like somehow roll out of bounds or come out of the end zone either. So that would have been Iowa State's ball, but still, didn't matter in the end, but it still gave us a little scare because, Rocco Becht's passing day wasn't the greatest. And I think that second one was because I think he threw it to Noel and he couldn't like corral it and it just ended up going into his defender's hands. So, couldn't blame him, but worked out in the end.
But, I mean, he just really turned it around when he needed to, especially.
Of course, yeah.
I mean, there were plays in the third quarter, even like that fourth down that Iowa State converts, or the one where he literally spins around like a cyclone, fires the ball 20 yards down the field, and finds Abu Sama open on the sideline to continue that drive in the third quarter. So there were some big plays that he definitely had after throwing those interceptions, but it's because of those mistakes that they had to rely on him in the end. He had to step up, he had to clutch up, and he did. And the poise and leadership that he's shown this season has been on display every game probably. But this one, I think when he's faced with adverse situations, when he's faced with, okay, I struggled, I failed during this game, how can I bounce back and help my team out to possibly win this game? I think he did a fantastic job of righting those mistakes, and it showed obviously with the win.
Yeah, obviously he said one part of the game doesn't work, the passing game, you go to the rushing game, and it worked out. And what I found interesting was he had the same amount of carries as he did completions in this game, both of them out in the 20.
Yeah,
which is funny. I don't know if these carries count in terms of sacks, because I know he got sacked a couple times, and that's why he has a little bit less yards, because he would have had over 100 yards rushing if they don't count for sacks.
Yeah,
but nonetheless, Rocco Becht, he is no doubt deserving of those game-by-game captains. I think he has 2 or 3 this season. I don't know if you know. I know at least 2 for sure, but 3 is up in the air a little bit. So, but nonetheless, Rocco Becht, I expect him to be a captain next year if he does stay with Iowa State, which I'm most likely going to assume he will. But, like what you said, poise and leadership, it's just been outstanding from a guy like him this season.
Yeah, and I mean, some of the stuff that he said too, I wouldn't be shocked if he spends his entire playing career here, regardless of what happens with NIL, the transfer portal, things like that. But just because he has talked about in some of the media availabilities of his parents said if you're choosing a school, you're going to stick it out there all 4 years. And he's said that, and I feel like with the way that the program is going, why would you want to transfer at this point?
Yeah, all the stars aligned for him to even start here. I know the Hunter Decker situation happened, and it lined up for him to be able to start last year, and look what he did with it. Led the team to a bowl game when it was expected to know. At least for me, what I expected was probably a little bit of a transition year, maybe making a bowl, but they obviously outperformed my expectations and ended up going to a bowl game. Unfortunately, losing to Memphis, but they have higher expectations now. Not that they're 7-0, now we're starting to think about now going to the second bye week, which we will little yap session a little later after talking about the UCF game. But now you can start realistically thinking about college football playoff, which we never thought was a possibility going into this year, or like very small. Obviously, we can like pitch it around, have a laugh about it. But this is actually like getting serious now, which is going to be exciting to watch for sure.
Yeah, I never thought coming into the season that a playoff spot would be possible. I mean, even like 2 years ago, too, when Hunter Deckers is a part of the team, you have Jairell Brock. If that whole situation doesn't happen with the whole gambling fiasco, I don't know if Iowa State is in this position right now.
Probably not.
Because Rocco Becht wouldn't have gotten a shot last year. A lot of the other guys wouldn't have either. I think that, honestly, in terms of the program itself, it sucks. It's awful what happened to those other players.
Of course, yeah.
But in terms of Iowa State as a program and trying to build, it worked out in their favor, probably. Because now you're a top 10 team in the country. Now you have a shot to play for and possibly win your first Big 12 championship ever. And now we're talking about a spot in the college football playoff. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Like 2 seasons ago, this team won 4 games. And now we're talking about all of this stuff that I wouldn't even have contemplated back then.
You're talking about playoffs? Yeah. Basically, dude. And like even when you talked about like, with obviously going back into thinking like if Hunter Deckers and the Jairell Brock thing didn't happen, who knows what the running back room would look like?
Right,
Because
maybe Jalen Jackson doesn't come here.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe Abu Sama doesn't get the chance, or Carson Hansen. They probably could have, but then again, Cartavius Norton and Eli Sanders are already there, and probably you never know what could have happened. And then
I think they hit the portal though. I know Sanders did.
Yeah, both of them did.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
Yeah, and then who knows about Jaden Higgins? Transferred here, and like who knows how he would have done with Hunter Deckers as quarterback. I don't think he would have had the year he had with Rocco Becht. I think he still would have played well. Don't get me wrong, but like at the same time, like
would he have gotten his touchdown record?
Hell no. Probably not. Yeah, I mean, not even probably sniffing 1,000 yards. I think at least like 600 yards for sure for Higgins if it was Deckers. But we don't even have to think about that scenario because it didn't happen, and it worked out for the better. Iowa State is here; they're undefeated, and we're having a good time.
Also, they're 4-0 in conference play for the first time ever.
Yeah, it's not the overall record because that's happened before, obviously 1938. But this is new. This is the official setting record, 4-0, and it came in a wild fashion.
It really did. Like, I mean, there were just so many times that I just thought it was over. Like, I mean, given the first drive of the game, I figured UCF was probably going to score. They had obviously schemed Iowa State's defense like perfectly. To get that many rushing yards, it's probably expected. But knowing how shaky the defense has been at times for Iowa State in terms of stopping the run, how good UCF is at running the football, they schemed it perfectly, and it just didn't work out in the end. But then you could also think, if Rocco Becht doesn't have his 2 picks, if he doesn't make those mistakes, Iowa State wins this game by multiple touchdowns.
100%. Obviously UCF probably still would have done what they've done on the rushing game just because it's really hard to prepare for a team like that because like even watching at least RJ Harvey wise, like once he bursts out of the hole, he has that second level speed, and you saw that, and the 80-yard touchdown, he did not, like nobody was even close to touching him on that 80-yard run. That's what scared me initially going into the game. Like he probably would have had a couple of those bigger runs, but luckily it was only resulted, I think, only like 2 big ones, the 81 and then the first drive of the game was like 46, I think. So luckily they did kind of tone him down a little bit, but still luckily it's still, you never know if Rocco Becht is actually on his game. He missed a couple of those key throws that would have been touchdowns just by a hair. Like, Campbell talks about hair off, it was really just a hair off. And, he hasn't
really said that a whole lot this season, though. I mean, he doesn't really have to.
No, yeah, we are undefeated. If we lost, it'd probably be that conversation.
He would have said a hair off for sure.
Yeah.
Heacock said it a time or two. So.
Probably, yeah. And, hopefully he doesn't have to say that for us this season, obviously. Hopefully we do achieve the dream of going undefeated. But, we're thinking too far ahead right now. We still have 5 games left, and this is probably the toughest stretch of football that Iowa State will have to play throughout the rest of the season.
Yeah.
With the up-and-coming teams. And, I don't know, man. I'm just – because when you look at the Big 12 standings, like BYU's scary to me. Like who knew that they were going to be right next to us in terms of being undefeated. And I know they're lower than us in the AP polls, but still BYU has looked phenomenal. And then
they have.
The teams we play next, Texas Tech and Cincy at home, and then Kansas in the middle, obviously. But Kansas isn't looking great, obviously. But still, those teams scare me, man. I don't know. Like, obviously, I feel like Iowa State should be able to get the job done, especially at home. But those teams could put up more of a fight like UCF did, even though UCF was a little bit worse off team than those teams right now.
Yeah, of the remaining games, I think it probably gets harder as it goes along, but it's kind of spotty in a sense too. I just feel like Texas Tech, yes, they've kind of gone on a run lately, but a lot of their wins have been one-possession games.
It's close.
They've been close. They got blown out to Washington State earlier this year. They almost lost to Abilene Christian in week 1. Like, I don't know. Texas Tech seems kind of spotty. I think that after the bye week, which Iowa State needs with the amount of injuries that they have, like linebackers, even like Rocco Becht was winded after the UCF game. Jalen Knoll had like a huge welt on his hip after the game. So this team needs a break, and it's couldn't have
perfect timing.
Yes, it couldn't have come at a more perfect time.
And you even mentioned the Baylor game that just happened. They got absolutely stomped.
They got wrecked
59 points to Baylor.
Yeah.
We did not even get close up, given up close to that many points. And it was even in Lubbock, too, which is surprising to me. Obviously, they put up 35 points, but 59. Like, if they give up 59 to Baylor, what are we going to do? Score 100 at this point? Like, if everyone's clicking, it's going to be like 80 points, and we only give up, 20 points maybe? So, obviously, that doesn't happen. Like, realistically, that was just a little hair in the soup type of thing. But, even they gave up 51 points to Abilene Christian. So this defense for Texas Tech isn't looking the best, and I expect at least Iowa State's offense to utilize that heavily. And then it's really just keeping that Texas Tech defense or offense in check, especially another big runner, Taj Brooks, coming into town. So we'll see.
Well, I think that, again, I'll say it, the fact that Iowa State has faced some top-tier running backs in Caleb Johnson in the Iowa game, now R.J. Harvey in the UCF game, they have, obviously they ran all over the Iowa State defense, but still, they have seen the best 2 running backs they're going to see all season.
100%.
Every running back they have the rest of the way is not as good as Caleb Johnson or R.J. Harvey.
100%, yeah.
So the fact that the rushing defense before the UCF game, I felt had gotten better game by game.
And that's what I said too, yeah.
Yeah, now those juggernauts are off the table now. There could be a clear-cut path that this defense gets even stronger. They stop the run better. They could continue this run that they're on.
I feel like this, like we talked about, like injuries-wise, great time for the bye week. Just a good time to also assess the run. Like we barely escaped from UCF because of the rushing attack, what they did to us. Now you can reassess. I know we're used to seeing the second half adjustments from John Haycock on the defense, but still, even though it was a little bit toned down, I should say, from the Knights offense, they still were able to find ways to score. I know some of them are from the defensive side, but still, I don't expect to see as bad of a rushing attack against us the rest of the year. Like, I know I'd probably assume that Taj Brooks probably might be the best running, maybe Devin Neal in Kansas, but that's
another team.
It was just a 3-game stretch at there, UCF, Texas Tech, and Kansas, in terms of like 3 clear-cut running back ones that could make you cause problems for you. So, if they're able to handle R.J. Harvey and Caleb Johnson, I don't see a problem to. That's like it's basically just shutting down the rest of their team. That's what the Iowa State team did. Like, we're gonna talk about UCF's passing numbers. Ja'Curry Brown was at 8 for 20, only 62 yards
and 2 picks.
Yeah, and 2 picks. And the 12 of those yards came from that last drive, which was the first throw to Kobe Hudson.
And then the pick.
Then the pick.
To Jontez Williams, who now has 4 games in a row with an interception.
Unbelievable work from Jontez. Talked about it last pod too. Jontez has been phenomenal, and he continued it again. Like, we didn't expect it to happen this game, but, it happened, and luckily landed in his arms and, sealed the game for Iowa State, but just still, like, having 50 yards passing before the final drive is insane to me. Like, I've never seen such a dominant performance against the pass. Like, and Ja'Curry Brown might not be the best passing quarterback, to be fair, but still, like, you don't hold a team under 100 passing yards unless you're one of the best, and I would say it's proved to be that so far. Jontez
is a redshirt sophomore, correct?
Yep.
The secondary set up for success.
Yeah.
I know they've got a lot of seniors in there, like Malik Verdon, Miles Purchase, Bo Freeler, but there's a lot of young talent in there, and they have gotten their chance to play this year. They've proven it. There have been 14 defensive backs this season that have recorded at least 1 tackle, which I think is a pretty impressive stat, all things considered.
Yeah.
But, again, this secondary continues to impress. Jontez Williams, I think, has been one of the best surprises from this room as well. But, again, with the rushing game, the 2 best teams, or the 2 teams that have had the best rushing attack against Iowa State, Iowa and UCF, are the only 2 games that Iowa State has won by 1 possession. Every other game, Iowa State has won by, at least 7 points.
Yeah.
So if they can clean up the rushing numbers on the defensive side, they'll be A-okay.
Yeah, I think it should be fine. And, like, that kind of goes back to the younger linebacker talk. Like, I know younger guys are stepping up, but also the problem of, like, I guess it is kind of the whole defense, too, just adjusting to those big game running backs. And I know it seems like when teams have, like, multiple different running backs, it's not one clear-cut guy like I talked about, like, with Taj Brooks and Devin Neal. It seems like they've kind of had trouble to get going, which it seems like they have. It's easier to game plan, it seems like, for the Iowa State defense, but then when you have a clear-cut runner like Caleb Johnson and R.J. Harvey, it's going to be tough to stop them. And it's gave me the kind of same feeling about Texas Tech. Taj Brooks is 800 rushing yards, and Devin Neal is also probably up there, too, in terms of rushing. So, yeah, not even sure. It's probably going to be about the same in terms of, like, clear-cut running backs that could give Iowa State problems.
Yeah, we'll just have to wait and see, I guess. But
yeah, we'll get into the Texas Tech talk next pod.
Yep. We'll have to wait a week for that one.
Yeah, we're enjoying the bye week right now.
Oh, yeah. But one guy who obviously will be enjoying the bye week, Jalen Knoll, like I said.
Oh, yeah, the welt. Yeah.
I mean, he was, post-game, he was sitting on one of the tables. Like, usually, everyone stands. He was out of breath. He was just winded. He needs it, especially after the performance he had. I mean, he had a fantastic, huge bounce-back performance. 8 catches, a season-high 153 yards. He didn't get a touchdown, but he had another big play over 50 yards. I mean, his explosivity was definitely crucial in this game, and there were a lot of times where Becht was under pressure. He had to fire it, and Knoll was open on the sideline. So Jalen Knoll is still out there making big plays when he needs to the most.
Yeah, him and Jaden Higgins are always the reliable guy, and you even saw in that last drive, Rocco Becht connecting deep to Knoll for 29 yards that got him into UCF's territory and ended up setting up that eventual touchdown run from Becht. So, yeah, I mean, all reliable, fourth-year cyclone for Knoll. He has been that trusted guy, even not just for Becht, but for Deckers back then, and then Brock Purdy at the tail end of his Iowa State career. Like, he has definitely for sure been one of the best receivers to come out of this program, not just from what he's done offensively, but special teams, too. Like, I think he had that one big punt return, too, during this game. Yeah,
he did.
Yeah, 2 for 52, and his long was a 36 one. So you see what he was able to do. He's so dynamic in what he could do. Like, it's just incredible to see. And, yeah, it's either Knoll or Higgins to lead the game in receiving, and it's worked out so far because we are undefeated. So
yeah. And then Higgins did have the touchdown. Had he caught one against West Virginia, he would have had 9 in a row with a touchdown.
He has 8 of his last 9, though. He can't complain about that.
Oh, yeah. He's the touchdown guy. Knoll's the yards guy. It works.
It does, yeah.
It just works.
It's a winning formula. But then talking about another receiver that looks like might have heard unfortunate news. We can't confirm this, but Benjamin Bramer.
Yeah.
Was it second half? He was spotted without pads on, in crutches, could barely put pressure on his legs.
He had a huge brace on his knee.
Yeah, some might say it might be a ACL thing, which we obviously hope it's not. Like Campbell said, like initial thoughts, like he doesn't think it's as bad as it sounds. But
he said the same thing about Caleb Bacon.
Yeah,
and I guarantee you, Caleb Bacon, even Will McLaughlin, they're going to be out for the entire year.
Yeah,
so.
I feel like Will McLaughlin hasn't came back yet. Like he has to come back within the next week or two to like officially say he can come back. Otherwise, he's not coming back.
Like this is it for him probably.
Yeah,
considering it's a bye week, I feel like he'd have to come back for the Texas Tech game. Otherwise, it's probably.
Maybe we find out availability. Maybe it's a question that is Will coming back, or it just gets an injury question, which we will let you guys know if we do hear anything from.
The injury update's going to go crazy this week.
Yeah, especially hearing about Bramer because he's such an integral piece. Like I know, besides Higgins and Knoll, he is a third receiver on the Iowa State team, and I know he's kind of had some on and off games, but when he's on, he's on. He helps out Iowa State tremendously, and obviously losing a guy does not help. So we're hoping for the best news, probably most likely.
Yeah, it is weird to me though that Taylor Mauser, the offensive coordinator, is still the tight ends coach, and I feel like we haven't seen the tight ends be used to their full capacity yet, though. So just something I'm going to keep my eye on for a little bit.
Definitely.
So yeah, offense played well after Beck's mishap. On the defensive side, Malik Verdon leads the way in tackles in this game with 11. But the big surprise to me was Rylan Barnes, linebacker, freshman, first start, 8 tackles. I was impressed with how he did out there, especially with what we've seen this linebacking room go through, the amount of just people who have had to be put in situations like this of like, hey, we know you're young, we've got injuries. You have to go out there and perform, and they all have. And Rylan Barnes is the newest addition of that linebacking core that has performed well when he needs to.
Yeah, I think he got the start on Saturday in large part because Jacob Ellis, I don't know if he was like fully healthy to go. It seemed like he was in pads. Like,
yeah, he did play. He had 2 tackles against UCF, so
yeah, I think it's
limited.
I know obviously Rylan Barnes does deserve the opportunity to start, and he did earn it obviously because of that. And and I found it interesting. I think he's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, he's 8th in the team right now in total tackles with 21 as a freshman too. Like, and you talk about the guys like I see Malik Verdon has been a tackling machine, leads the team with 53. Then it's Bo, Cooper Ebel, obviously 41. Ellis is at 28. I know he stepped up. And then John Tez, Jeremiah, JR, and then there's Rylan Cooper right there. Rylan Barnes, not Cooper. Whoops. Rylan Barnes.
Yeah, Rylan Barnes, or no, Rylan Cooper and Jeremiah Barnes, yeah.
Yeah.
I
got the name switched around, yeah, definitely. But, yeah, like talking about him, Rylan Barnes obviously been an integral piece. In that game, he had 3 tackles for a loss.
Which led the way in tackles for loss.
Yeah, and I remember that one play specifically where he tried to tackle R.J. Harvey, but he would not go down. He's trying to, like, throw him around to try to get him down, but he ended up getting him down. It was a really good play. I know it's one of those plays towards the end of the game. And, yeah, he's been electric in the linebacker room.
Yeah, he's a tough guy to tackle. Is that the play where he was trying to, like, rip the ball away from him, too?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. He's trying to, like, rip him around, but he couldn't get him, like, it wouldn't come out, and then obviously just threw him to the ground and was hyped up.
Yep,
so.
he was definitely pumped after that one.
Oh, yeah.
And it definitely juiced up the defense for sure.
100%.
When you can throw around the guy who's ran all over your defense like that, yeah, that'll definitely amp him up.
It's like it's like all the defense's feelings right there about R.J. Harvey that whole game. It's like, you did this to us. Why would you do this? But we ended up beating you, so take that.
How dare you?
Yeah, one of those things, yeah. But it's just funny how that happened.
Yeah. Kicking, Conradi missed a PAT. I think it was it blocked? I think it was.
Yeah, it was
he made
blocked.
his lone field goal, which is something.
From 30 yards.
Had he made the PAT, though, we don't get to see Rocco Becht get his 2-point conversion.
True.
So
yeah, we would have.
That was a big talking point after that game.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Like, after the game, the crowd loved it. But, yeah, if he makes that, they're just kicking a PAT at the end of the game.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it, yeah. And obviously, it's gone to this question like we talked about before. Like, would you rather have Conradi miss this kick in this game or lose to the game at Iowa? Like, it's always going to come back to the one at Iowa because that was the most important one of all the kicks he's made this year.
Yep.
And most of these now, like, especially recently, have been extra points and some have been blocked. Like, the one against UCF was blocked. And the other ones, other conditions, but still, like, he still has been Mr. Accurate for us, so I'm not even worried about him.
Yeah. If he does have to miss a kick, though, I'd rather it be a PAT than a field goal. I'd rather lose 1 point than 3.
Yeah, that's literally the main point. Would you rather lose 1 or 3 points?
Yep.
And if we lost 3 points here, that would have tied the game. And who knows what happened.
Well, think about this, too. Iowa, in the Cy-Hawk game, goes for a 2-point conversion rather than taking the PAT. Had they just taken the PAT, that game goes to overtime. If Iowa makes the 2-point conversion, Conradi isn't in a position to kick the field goal.
Yeah,
they need a touchdown on that final drive.
Which it
There's
like
a lot of what ifs and a lot of like, oh, if this happened.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter in the end. We're undefeated. Like we could have easily been 6-1 from that game, just from the circumstances. And luckily,
same with UCF. Like, there's a real possibility Iowa State's 5-2 right now.
Yeah, those circumstances luckily did not come to light, and we're still thriving. This team is thriving.
What matters is how you can perform in those high-pressure, adverse moments. Can you finish out one-possession games? Can you bounce back from mistakes you made before? And Iowa State has hit on that every time that they've needed to.
100%.
Yep. How about we take a quick look at the Big 12 standings?
For sure.
And who is in this title race. Iowa State still is 4-0, 7-0 overall, as is BYU, who I did not expect to be up there running the conference with Iowa State this season. I thought they'd be middle of the road.
Yeah, and like even then, I can remember in the preseason rankings too, like BYU was projected one of the teams to be in the find themselves in the bottom of the division, but luckily, like seeing like they've just been showing out their offense has kept them in games, and their defense, I know it's kind of lapsed at times, but still have kept them in the game to end up winning the game for them. And yeah, I mean, I just remember the times when Iowa State beat BYU last year in Provo. That was a good time when Abu Sama just ran all over them, but
Yep, that was his first kind of breakout game, and then K-State happened, and it was like, whoa, this dude's special.
Yeah, we might have got a guy. This UCF game helped them for sure.
It did.
Having
he
him contribute in the receiving game as well as the rushing game, it truly does help.
Oh, yeah.
100%. BYU, like, they've just been phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
I know if it does continue to go like this, because BYU, their schedule is kind of a cakewalk.
They can go undefeated. They really can.
UCF might be UCF and Utah probably because they're both away.
Oh yeah. Well, and plus Utah's a rivalry game anyway too. So
Arizona
that one's gonna be
State
tough.
maybe just because they're 5-2 overall, 2-2 in conference, but I don't think they lose to a team like Arizona State, and then obviously Kansas and Houston at home. Man, come on.
Those should be wins for BYU.
Yeah. But, dude, they got the cakewalk schedule. They got through their – they didn't really have a hard schedule, to be fair. Obviously, they started conference play with Kansas State at home.
That was their toughest game, and they rolled Kansas State.
Yeah. Then they played at home versus Arizona, and Arizona's was projected to be one of those top teams, but they haven't really looked great as of late. And then, obviously, a closer game at Baylor. They were able to pull it out there, and then Oklahoma State barely pulled it out because of that late touchdown. But yeah, I've been more impressed about what BYU has done. Obviously, it's going to be interesting to see if these two teams, Iowa State and BYU, meet in Arlington, Texas. If the circumstances does come to it, if they probably both have to finish undefeated for that to happen, because Kansas State, Texas Tech, Cincy, and Colorado is starting to come up right now. Like, they could pose some problems, because I know they are below us because they've had one loss in conference, but it's crucial to not drop a game, especially in this late stretch of the season.
Mm-hmm. I feel like we're going to see, honestly, BYU and K-State in the Big 12 championship game.
I'm trying
to be real, but I mean, when you've tried to be real in our staff picks, it hasn't really worked out for you. So
I'll gladly continue to be wrong if I'm trying to be real.
Guess we got to be believers.
Yeah. Even now when we go to Utah, I might change my pick from preseason to think we might win.
For sure.
Kansas State, though, I'm not sure. We'll see where we are by the time that time comes around, but you never know.
I feel like it's got to be two of those three, though. I feel like Texas Tech, they have the record right now, but it'll probably catch up to them, like we were talking about earlier, of just some of their games that they've just been able to squeak out. It's like, it's good that they've been able to win games like that. It's tough to win one-possession games, and they have. But at the same time, it's like, if you're not kind of beating up on these teams that aren't as good, how are you going to fare against teams like Iowa State?
Yeah.
So there's that aspect of it. Cincinnati's looked really solid. Like Iowa State, shut out Houston. Cincy was at home for that game, though, 34-0. But they have looked really solid. And then Colorado has been a huge surprise to me. They actually look really good. Kind of glad that Iowa State doesn't have to play Colorado this year.
The hype is actually coming to that, to fruition. Even they had Kansas State on the rails at home, but luckily, or I'll say luckily, I'm not a big fan of Colorado. So I'm going to say luckily in terms of just beating Colorado, they were able to slip out a win in Boulder because of the primetime show. I'm not really too big of a fan of over there in Colorado, but nonetheless, Colorado's got, when you look at their schedule right now, it's going to be a little interesting, tough test for them because they got to play Cincy at home and then go to Lubbock. And obviously Baylor's able to smack Texas Tech in Lubbock. So I guess it's not really as of worry of a game for them, but still, it's just interesting to see what this team does because they're really starting to turn it around right now after that loss in Nebraska.
It's interesting that you kind of bring up those teams like Texas Tech, Cincinnati, Colorado, kind of all playing themselves. Maybe they kind of round robin things, beat up on each other, and that just allows BYU, Iowa State, and Kansas State to kind of fight it out to see, all right, which of you three is going to make the Big 12 championship. And then I'd also kind of like to bring up, there is a scenario where we could have those three teams, in the college football playoff.
You're talking about Iowa State, BYU, and Kansas State, right?
I am.
Okay.
So,
just want to make sure.
Let me kind of run this through you.
Go ahead. Yeah.
BYU has to finish undefeated.
Of course.
No question about it. They just have to. I mean, looking at their schedule, what they have in front of them, they can do it.
Yeah.
Iowa State would probably have to lose to Kansas State. I know that Iowa State in a lot of projected models the past few weeks, including this last week that we've had, is there as possibly the Big 12 champion. They could get an at-large bid. The only game Iowa State can lose, and this is going to fit in with everything, is the Kansas State game. Because then Kansas State moves into the Big 12 championship to play BYU, who's undefeated. Then you can have Kansas State win the Big 12 with one loss. BYU made it to the Big 12 championship with one loss. Iowa State missed the Big 12 championship, but that one loss is to Kansas State. So you got 3 one-loss Big 12 teams in there. Who says no to having those 3 in the playoff? Probably the SEC and the Big Ten.
Yeah, I was about to say the SEC and the Big Ten. Yeah, it's literally in terms of record. Like it has to be that. I know you have to include your Group of 5 team, obviously.
Yeah.
But still,
it'll be Boise State.
Oh,
I guarantee you.
You cannot have Ashton Jean not in the college football playoff.
Yeah, huge game for them this week though. They played UNLV.
That's gonna be interesting. Yeah, and
I think it's on Thursday night. So
I believe.
A lot of eyes should be on that one
tomorrow night.
Or no, not Thursday. Friday night.
Yeah, it's got to be before Saturday. I knew that for sure. But yeah. That's gonna be a good game. I love watching him play. He's so explosive. Like I don't think I've seen a college, at least from my time. I know it's been like older runners like I haven't seen, but still like he's just incredible.
I mean, Brees was explosive when he was here.
True.
Troy Davis back in the 90s.
Yeah, I just love all the hype around him. Like never left. I know he had the opportunity to leave Boise State, but he kept to stay in Boise State and build that culture and that team, which I love to see from a guy like that because you want to see somebody who sticks through everything and doesn't leave for like a team like Alabama or Georgia for the SEC, where obviously you could make more money, you have more eyes on you to see if you get an NFL, but Ashton Jean's just been a great story, man.
Oh yeah, and I feel like we have seen that at Iowa State too, of guys kind of sticking it out a long time. Like I feel like Rocco Becht will, Jalen Knoll did, Bo Freeler did, and those two guys are captains this year. So they're kind of, proof is in the pudding. If you stick it out, if you put the work in, you can get that title. You can lead this team. You can be a top 10 team and fight for a conference championship.
Yeah.
And it all goes back to the culture that Matt Campbell has built too.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
I mean, there was talk, years ago of like, oh, he's going to Iowa State. He's going to Notre Dame. He's going to the NFL. He's still here. They've had their ups and downs, and now they're seeing probably the biggest up that they've had ever.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, not just in Campbell's era, just like ever.
Ever, yeah. And this like we talked about before, this program has been historically not good, I'll say. Like,
it's been brutal.
Yeah, it's been brutal. Like, not even to put it like bluntly, like I don't even know what I did. It's just straight up bad. Like, Dan McCarney, was the wins record for the head coach, and his record wasn't even great. It was pretty bad in terms of having that big a record, but Campbell obviously came in, has changed his program for the better. Obviously now on probably the biggest high he'll have in his tenure with Iowa State. I doubt they have a kind of run like this. They could still go next year, maybe around like 5-2 around this point, maybe like 6-1, maybe 4-3 around that time. Like, but I don't foresee another 7-0 start happening like this. What has happened so far? Oh yeah.
Well, so I know I've kind of like talked about McCarney's record and everything, but I'll give him some credit though. The Big 12, it's still tough now. It's a huge league, but I mean back then it was really tough. Like you had Texas. Oklahoma ran the league. Nebraska was good back then. Even Colorado, Missouri, and Kansas had that 2007 season where they were just like on rails.
Yeah.
Like, why was Kansas so good in 2007? I don't know. I'll never know.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah.
And
then you also had like, Mike Gundy at Oklahoma State, who's still there. They've always been good. And then, Baylor, Texas Tech, they had flashes back then too. So it was a tough era in the Big 12 for sure. Yeah. And it was tough to win games. But now Iowa State's the team that's the tough team and is winning games. And I love that we're kind of seeing some parity already with the Big 12. Like BYU and Iowa State are at the top of the conference that has forever been run by like Oklahoma and all these blue bloods. And now we're seeing some of these new bloods kind of take over. Like Kansas State, I mean, I know they won the Big 12 championship a couple years ago, but they're still up here. They can have their time. Texas Tech is surprising people. Cincinnati's up here. And I feel like there's a lot of fluctuation. Like Oklahoma State, a lot of people expected them, I did, to be good. They're at the bottom. UCF's near the bottom. Those teams could rise in a couple seasons. They could be up there fighting for things. So there's a lot of good that's with this Big 12 conferences this year and for years to come.
Yeah, I'm excited to see, like we said, for years to come. Obviously, teams like Arizona State, Colorado, and Utah, we expected some of those teams to be great, but some of those teams haven't been as good as we expected. And, this might be just a one season of acclimating from the Pac-12 to Big 12 play, It's different competition, which you had West Coast coming to the more Midwest Central area. So, I'm loving the expansion from the Big 12, what they added so far. Like, these teams have been very good in terms of brand and everything, and it's just going to be a good time, not just for this season and just beyond.
Yeah, I really hope the Big 12 can stick together for a while. I know that there's a lot of talk with the SEC and the Big 10 and the amount of dollars and playoff spots and everything like that. So there will probably be a seismic shift once again in a few years in college football. But for right now, I like where things are at with the Big 12. I really enjoy this conference. It's hands down to me the most fun conference this season.
Yeah.
Like you've got just upsets. You've got a lot of really good teams. There's 6 teams right now that are 3-1 or better in the Big 12. And we're past the halfway point of the season now. Like, there's a lot of teams that can still fight to make the Big 12 championship. It's not like leagues kind of like the Big 10, honestly. I mean, you know that Indiana's up there, but it's like, are they really contenders? Like, it's going to be Oregon and Ohio State probably. Yeah, Penn State maybe, but
maybe, yeah. But I mean, their quarterback Curtis Rourke just went down with I think it was a finger or hand injury, one of the two.
Oh well, they're done then.
Yeah, I know they're hosting Washington. They probably still should beat them, but at the same time, they got to go to Ohio State.
Yeah,
that's their real tough test. I know they will probably lose that game, but it'll be interesting to see what they do against a team like Ohio State because they haven't really played that caliber of a team in the Big Ten yet. Mm-hmm. And it's just different parodies. Just like I love the Big 12. It's more competition, like you said. Big 10, not as much, more clear-cut teams like Oregon, Ohio State, not Oklahoma State, and the surprise of Indiana, and then SEC. It's typical SEC ball. Texas obviously at the top, but then lost to Georgia, and now Georgia lost to Bama.
Bama lost to Vanderbilt.
Bama, dude, it's so many
Tennessee.
Yeah.
Tennessee lost to Arkansas.
We are here for the Bama losses. It's about time that they start losing. Saban is finally gone. The bad man is gone. It's like seeing the Patriots dynasty fall apart. It's beautiful. Mm-hmm. Like, good for them. Those fans get to celebrate so much, but finally you're not the top dog anymore.
Yeah, respect to what Saban did there. Though.
Oh, no doubt.
It was incredible.
No doubt.
Like, I mean,
one of the best coaches of all time, if not the best coach. Like what he's able to do,
hands down. But I'm glad that they're starting to
no more reign of the Bama
fall a little bit in terms of
if they get into the college football playoff with their mediocreness this season. I know they're 15th right now in the country, but like you can't. Mm-hmm. There are probably other better teams that probably deserve a fighting chance in the college football playoff rather than Bama, and I feel like still they're going to find a way to get Bama in just because it's Bama. Mm-hmm. But because
even Iowa State dropped a spot in the rankings. It doesn't really matter right now. Yeah. The rankings don't matter until the final couple weeks.
Give me the overall record and the rankings, honestly. If you're still undefeated, that's all that matters. It's not about the rankings where you are because they're obviously going to favor SEC and Big Ten teams and some ACC teams over us. So honestly,
I wouldn't be shocked if we get just one ACC school. It's probably going to be Miami or Clemson.
Miami's undefeated right now. So
it could be both. Both of them could get in, but that'll probably more than likely be the ACC championship, but I don't know.
Pitt's undefeated too.
Oh, they are.
Yeah, 6-0. They play Syracuse, and Syracuse 5-1 with Kyle McCord. So that's gonna be a good game to watch. It's actually tomorrow night, which is gonna be a good game.
Okay.
At Pitt. So
interesting.
Yeah.
But again, if Iowa State though can just keep winning, that's what they're gonna have to do.
Just do what DJ Khaled does. All I do is win no matter what.
That's what they've been doing. They got to keep it up.
Yeah, that's all you got to do, man. Take it one game at a time. That's the great mentality to have. You don't have to worry about what's ahead of you and just keep what's in front of you. So.
And I loved the response that Rocco Becht gave me, the availability we had the week before the season started. Mm-hmm. I asked him, is there a game that you have circled on the schedule? And if not, like, what's a team that you're excited for? He said there's no team that they had circled. And if they did, they circled everyone because he said that all the teams are circling them back. And I thought it was a bold answer that he gave, saying that all the teams are circling them. But now I see why. Iowa State is the team that the Big 12 runs through. Same with BYU. So,
yeah,
I loved that response out of him. And they've been proving it week after week of, getting better, beating on teams, coming back against teams. Mm-hmm. That's why they're undefeated, not just in the Big 12, but overall too.
Yeah, that's what you want to see from a perspective from the quarterback to get that kind of answer. Like, that's a leader right there in terms of, like, you'd think they'd have a game like Iowa scheduled or circled because obviously it's the Cy-Hawk rivalry, which I'm assuming they did in their heads, but like you said, they had no game particularly circled, or like probably Kansas State's Farmageddon or Utah's a new opponent. So, but still regardless, to have that mentality, just one game at a time, it's worked out very well for them, and hopefully it continues to go as expected so far with the next 5 teams. Might give Iowa State a run for their money.
Yeah, and a lot of the times too, Campbell, Heacock, Mauser, they all talk about there's stuff that they have to get better at. Mm-hmm. And there's not been a perfect game that Iowa State has played this year. There's always been something that has been a glaring issue. In the UCF game, it was the turnovers that Rocco Becht had.
Yeah.
However,
the rushing defense.
Yeah, the rushing defense was awful. Mm-hmm. It was the worst it had been all season.
Yeah.
But they find a way. They rally around each other. and they find ways to win football games. And at the end of the day, that's what you're there to do, is to win football games. I know that there's a lot more than just winning football games, but like at the surface, winning games is what you're there to do. And they're winning games.
That's why you're in this particular profession.
Yeah.
You're there to win games. You're not there to try and give it your best and, oh, gosh, darn, we didn't win, but we gave our best effort. No, you're here to win. You want to win. That's why you're on a big team like Iowa State. You're not playing for one of the Division II or Division III, even JUCO teams. Like, you're not dwelling in the bottom feeders of college football. You're among one of the top athletes in the country getting this opportunity. So they're playing to win, and it's gone well so far. And I'm excited to see what happens.
Yeah. Big takeaway for this week, though, it is the bye week. Iowa State, no game. It's needed, though.
Oh, yeah.
They need a break.
Yeah, just like talking about the injuries again. Yeah, much needed. And just a fine-tuning of everything, just preparing for this final 5-game stretch, which will be a gauntlet for sure. Just about
it will be.
Every other game will be a home away, like alternate, but still got to prepare for what other teams could bring that you haven't faced this season.
Yeah, the 3 toughest games are all at home, which is beneficial to Iowa State. Kansas is looking not great. That's really a neutral site game at Arrowhead Stadium.
Yeah.
The only true road game is Utah, and they've been kind of playing like crap.
Yeah, no more Cam Rising.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I don't think this will be a cakewalk, but still should be obtainable for sure.
Yeah, I wouldn't really mind playing against Cam Rising with how he's been playing recently, but whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, that'll do it from us today. Again, Iowa State does the unthinkable last-minute comeback over UCF 38-35 to stay undefeated. No game this week, but we will be back to preview the Texas Tech game. We might talk some more Cyclones in the NFL. We might have some upsets in the Big 12 to talk about. We really don't know. We're going to have to wait and see, I guess. But we thank you guys so much for watching once again. We'll see you next time on the Sports Weekly podcast, possibly before the Texas Tech game, maybe before. We'll see. We may have a special guest come on.
Maybe.
We'll have to wait and see. So
stay tuned.
Yeah. Thanks again, guys. We'll see you next time.